Number 10, the Air Jordan 4 Orchid. This women's colorway of the Air Jordan 4 comes in an entirely pink suede upper. In addition to the pink, you've got gray splatter print on the midsole, heel tab, and wing of the shoe, and of course, the outsole of the shoe comes in black and white. Now, I totally understand that this shoe is not for everybody, and I don't think that's what Jordan Brand intended anyway, because this shoe is a women's only release. If they had wanted everyone to wear it, they would have released it in full family sizing. That said, it is essentially a UNC 4 that comes in pink instead of blue, and I think if you look at it that way, kind of clean. Personally, it's not my favorite shade of pink, but I don't think it's bad, and it's a pair that I probably will pick up for my daughter. And because at the time of me recording this video, this shoe is not yet released, and I haven't had a pair in hand, I can't tell for sure what the materials are actually going to be like, but based on images, it looks like the materials are decent. Number 9, the Air Jordan 4 Vivid Sulfur. This technically women's exclusive colorway is a surprisingly clean new colorway on the Air Jordan 4. You have what is essentially a fire red 4, but the red is switched out for yellow. I get that yellow might not be the most popular color in the world, but I mean, it's basically a white and black Jordan with yellow hits. The fact that this shoe didn't have much hype at all when it first released, in fact, I think it's still sitting at a lot of places, kind of baffled me. And to me, it sort of signaled the beginning of the fall of the popularity of the Air Jordan 4. While it's still probably one of the most popular Jordans out there, it's just not like it was 2 years ago. Because I mean, this shoe 2 years ago or a year ago would have been like a $300 sneaker, but you can grab it for resale for well under retail. This is just another example of a shoe that proves that you don't need hype to make a shoe fire. This shoe is absolutely fire, but it's not hyped whatsoever. Sure, I guess yellow isn't like my first choice when it comes to Air Jordan colors or Air Jordan accent colors, but it's still clean. I would still definitely rock this shoe. Number 8, the oxidized green Air Jordan 4. In my opinion, this is one of the most underrated pairs of Jordans that have dropped all year. Sure, the shoe is not an OG colorway or even really a hyped up pair of Air Jordan 4s, but it is still an incredibly clean sneaker. It's got a white tumbled leather upper accented by this really nice sort of like automotive candy green that you've got on the midsole and on some of the lace eyelets of the shoe. Plus, you've got this really nice, very subtle sail hit on the back half of the midsole. It kind of feels like some of the metallic 4s or the pure monies, except instead of silver, you've got a green. It's a really clean colorway, and I think the team at Jordan Brand actually knocked this one out of the park. I'm genuinely surprised that there is no hype behind this shoe whatsoever. It is still sitting on Nike's website. And of course, you can grab it right now through the YouTube shopping tab on your screen for well under retail. This shoe even has some premium Jordan 4 hits like a leather heel tab and a leather wing on the side of the shoe, details that you don't have on standard 4s and you've only had on some of the more limited versions of the shoe. Maybe they just produced too many of these, maybe people just literally don't care about this colorway whatsoever. I don't know why there's no hype, I really don't. This shoe is fire. Number 7, the Air Jordan 4 Wet Cement Paris Olympics. So this monochromatic gray colorway released back in July around the same time as the Paris Olympics. And apparently the colorway of this shoe was inspired by Paris in some way. Possibly the sidewalk, I'm not sure. Although the shoe was an entirely gray sneaker, the colorway did sort of fade from a very dark gray towards the bottom of the shoe to like a medium gray at the top of the shoe. And for an all gray pair of Jordans, it actually wasn't terrible. In fact, for a concrete themed sneaker, it was a pretty solid release. Did you get my pun? I don't know if you got it, but solid concrete. And while at first glance it seems like the only reason they call this the wet cement Air Jordan 4s is because it's a gray sneaker, there are actually some details on this shoe which I think are very clean and do a good job of letting you know that this is a concrete inspired sneaker. The first is the gray on gray splatter print on the wing of the shoe. It's a very subtle hit, but it does a really nice job of conveying that concrete feel. And the second are the inset or deboss details. On the side of the shoe, instead of your standard netting, you've got a leather panel which has a pressed in netting texture instead of actually having real netting. And they've also done the same thing on the tongue of the sneaker. The Jumpman is actually going into the tag, like it's pressed into the tag instead of coming out of the tag, and those details remind me a lot of when you have fresh concrete and someone sticks their hand into it. It's the same sort of effect, and I think it's really cool on this shoe. It's one of those sneakers that at first I think the inspiration just seems just really dumb, but then you get it in hand and you're like, wow, they really put a lot of thought into this. I actually really like this shoe. Number 6, the Air Jordan 4 White Thunder. So this shoe is actually a brand new colorway for 2024, but as you can probably tell, it's inspired by the very popular Thunder 4s, which came with a yellow accent instead of a white accent. In fact, the color blocking of this shoe is exactly the same as that shoe, except with white instead of yellow. In addition to the white accents, you've got a black nubuck upper, which feels alright. It's your standard like Durabuck material. And then of course you've got a white Jumpman on the heel instead of your Nike Air, because again, this is not really an OG colorway at all. And actually neither is the Thunder 4s. That pair released back in 2006 alongside the Lightning 4s, not back in 1989 when the Air Jordan 4 silhouette first released. But I say all that to say that this shoe is an incredibly clean, brand new colorway of the Air Jordan 4. It's rare that we get brand new colorways that are as clean or as wearable as this shoe. And the general sneakerhead public seems to agree with me, because not only did this shoe completely sell out, but it's also one of the most resold sneakers on sneaker sites. It's clean, it's simple, it's wearable. Doesn't get much better than this. Number 5, the Air Jordan 4 Fear. So this shoe is the first retro of the 2013 Air Jordan 4 Fears, which released as part of the Fear Pack, which came with a pair of 3s and a pair of 5s. Last year we had the return of the Air Jordan 3 Fear for the Air Jordan 3's 35th anniversary and also the 10th anniversary of the Fear Pack. This year we're getting the Air Jordan 4 Fear for the Air Jordan 4's 35th anniversary, and presumably we're getting the Air Jordan 5 Fear next year, but that's just a guess. That being said, personally, I think that the Air Jordan 4 Fear is the best pair from the pack. In fact, just purely based off of the colorway, I think the shoe is better than the White Thunder 4s and that we just talked about on the list. The shoe comes in this really interesting fade colorway from like a white at the bottom of the shoe to a black towards the top of the shoe. It's an incredibly clean look and it's very different. You've got nubuck materials on the upper, and then you've also got a speckled midsole which features another fade from a black towards the heel to a dark gray towards the forefoot of the shoe. And there's just a lot of really good stuff going on in this sneaker. It's very clean, it's very wearable, and it's more interesting than the White Thunder 4s, in my opinion. Now, even though I personally like this shoe more than the White Thunder 4s, I couldn't tell you if it's going to be more popular than that shoe just because I really don't know. It hasn't released yet, and last year's Fear 3s didn't sell out. In fact, they're still sitting at the Nike outlets to this day, a year later, which is crazy to me. So I really don't know what's going to happen with this shoe, but I can say that I personally love this shoe and I plan to rock this shoe a bunch. Speaking of Fear, Apothecary is dropping our Halloween sock collection this Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. It comes in 4 different scary, or I guess spooky. It's not really, I'm not frightened by any of these socks, but 4 spooky colorways. And of course, like every other pair of Apothecary socks, they not only look great, but they also feel great on your feet and are the perfect Halloween accessory. And if you're watching this video well after the drop, grab some other Apothecary socks. We got tons of them. They're all linked through the YouTube shopping tab on your screen. Number 4, the Air Jordan 4 RM. The Air Jordan 4 RM is a brand new take on the Air Jordan 4. In fact, RM stands for Resto Mod. While the shoe maintains the midsole and outsole tooling of the standard Air Jordan 4, the upper of this shoe has been completely remade and actually specifically redesigned for skateboarding and BMXing. And that's why the 2 launch colorways of this shoe are collaborations with Nigel Sylvester. In fact, the number 4 spot in this list is taken by the Nigel Sylvester Air Jordan 4s. It is the best of the Air Jordan 4 RMs, in my opinion, because not only do these Nigel Sylvester collaborations feature special hits like the bike air on the heel and the little Nike swoosh, they're also just really clean colorways. And surprisingly, the resale price in the Nigel Sylvesters has dropped pretty dramatically. The black colorway I think goes for basically retail or just above. And the non-collaboration colorways go for well below retail on the resale market, which is wild. Sure, I get that people don't like change and they don't like when Jordan Brand messes with classic silhouettes, but I've got to admit that the Air Jordan 4 RM is a really nice modification on the shoe. Do I hope that it becomes the standard Air Jordan 4? Absolutely not, but I do have to say that it is a really nice improvement on the silhouette if you're looking for a skateboarding shoe or a bike shoe. The paneling on the upper is modern and clean. You've got this really interesting TPU piece that wraps around the back of the shoe. They've also cut down the height of the shoe to make it much more of like a, I wouldn't say a low, more of like a mid, even though the Air Jordan 4s are sort of a mid, because they're definitely not highs. I don't really know what to call it, like a low mid, but hey, either way, it's a surprisingly decent shoe. They've added a lot of padding to the sneaker, so it feels great on foot, and some of these colorways, even the GR colorways, are actually really solid. And honestly, the reason this shoe is so high on the list is not just because it's gotten some fire collaborations, but because it's one of the first modifications of an Air Jordan classic silhouette that I think was actually done really, really well. But hey, I'd love to know what you guys think of the Air Jordan 4 RMs in the comment section down below. Number 3, the A Ma Maniére Air Jordan 4 while you were sleeping. 2024 has not been a great year for Jordan hype, and that became even more obvious with the release of the Air Jordan 4 A Ma Maniére while you were sleeping. In fact, it also happened with the A Ma Maniére Air Jordan 3s it released earlier this year, which were the follow-up to one of the most popular collaborations of all time. I ran out of breath because that's how hype I'm getting about this shoe not being hype. For me though, the fact that the A Ma Maniére Air Jordan 4s were sitting for a while was even more shocking to me than the Air Jordan 3s because the Air Jordan 4 is just generally a more popular silhouette this year. And personally, the second colorway of the A Ma Maniére Air Jordan 4s, in my opinion, is way cleaner than the first. The first one's clean, don't get me wrong, but this one, oh man, this one's fire. So this shoe released alongside 5 other sneakers as part of a 6 sneaker pack for A Ma Maniére's 10th anniversary, and for me personally, this is my favorite pair from the pack. And there's a lot of reasons for that. The first is just the colorway. The colorway of this shoe is incredibly clean. You've got like this, I think it's called like stone, bone, or stone. I always forget the name of the shoe. It's some kind of bone colorway with a pink tint to it, which I really, really like. It's not a color you see much on sneakers, but it's very, very clean. You've got sail hits on the midsole. You've got black. You've got purple on the outsole. It's a very, very interesting colorway, but it works so well. Not only that, but as we've come to expect from A Ma Maniére releases, the quality of this shoe is ridiculous. The suede used on the toe cap, the nubuck used on the upper, the quilted sock liner, the textured fabric, everything about this shoe feels very high quality. And it was actually only priced $225, which is $10 more than a standard pair of Air Jordan 4s, but the quality felt like $50 more expensive than a standard pair of 4s. But even with all of that, looking incredible, being a great collaboration, and having just amazing materials, this shoe still sat in a lot of men's sizes because it was technically a women's shoe, which is interesting to say because usually for women's shoes, they tend to sit in women's sizes and not men's sizes. But for this shoe, it sat in like big men's sizes, which is really weird to see. I think I saw this shoe sitting on the sneakers app for like a couple days in a size 12, which is rare. So I think it's fair to say that not only is Air Jordan 4 hype dying down, but so is Air Jordan hype in general. A Ma Maniére collaborations used to be one of the most hyped up collabs that you can grab, and nowadays they're kind of just sitting. In fact, a couple weeks ago I found a pair of A Ma Maniére 3s at the Nike outlet, which blew my mind. Now I'm not saying that A Ma Maniére can't sell sneakers anymore, because they obviously can, their collaborations are excellent, but I just think the hype for Jordan brand in general is just down right now. As someone who loves Jordans, this is a great time for me because yes, while I do buy a lot of my sneakers early and pay just ridiculous resale prices, if I wanted to double up, I can do it for like basically retail on almost every single pair that I buy. This shoe included, which you can check out right there through the YouTube shopping tab. This shoe is going for like retail or in some cases below depending on size. It's kind of wild. And if it wasn't for the two other sneakers on this list being what they are and being as popular and as clean as they are, this shoe would be number one, no question. And I genuinely do think this is one of the best collaborations of the year. This might top that list. I don't know if it will, but it's close. Seriously, one of my favorite personal pickups of the year. I absolutely love this shoe. Number 2, the Air Jordan 4 Bread Reimagined. This might be the first reimagined Air Jordan release that some people consider to be better than the original. Now, I don't know if I personally agree with that, but I know that some people do prefer this. Now, if you're watching this video, I'm assuming you know the difference between this version and the original version, but if you don't, basically what they did on the reimagined version of the shoe was replace the nubuck on the upper of the sneaker with tumbled leather, which actually does kind of change up the look of the shoe. It goes from like a matte shoe to a semi-gloss shoe because this leather has a bit of a sheen to it. But right now, tumbled leather, and actually for the last couple years, tumbled leather does seem to be a more popular material than nubuck or even suede. So to have a pair of Air Jordan 4s in an all black leather, people really liked it. Plus the color blocking of this shoe is the Bread Air Jordan 4s, one of the OG colorways. It also doesn't get more classic than a black and red pair of Air Jordan sneakers. They're all black and red because he played for Chicago. Some other things I like about this shoe are the shape of the silhouette. It more closely resembles the OG Air Jordan 4 shape, especially in the heel. Of course, you've got the Nike Air branding on the heel in gray. But not only is it an OG colorway, it's also just a very wearable shoe. It's a black Air Jordan 4. They're very easy to rock. And in leather, you actually don't have to worry as much about getting this shoe wet, so it's actually more durable, at least I think it is, than the original Air Jordan 4 Breads. But I know there's OG heads out there that probably don't like this change because it is a change. I mean, there's a lot of people out there who didn't like the change from the Royal ones going from leather to suede, and I do get that. I actually completely understand that. It just didn't look as nice as this change from suede to leather for whatever reason. There's also people out there who, no matter what Jordan brand gives them, is never going to make them happy, so I totally get that as well. But I will say this is one of the best releases of the year. There were a decent amount of pairs available. It's also one of the most hyped up pairs of the year. So if you're looking for a great pair of Air Jordan 4s, I don't think they're that expensive. You can obviously check the resale price through the YouTube shopping tab on your screen, but I do think it's a very easy shoe to rock in a very clean colorway, and the material change is different, and it's nice. I like it. Number 1, the Air Jordan 4 Military Blue. Not only is this my favorite Air Jordan 4 release of the year, it's also one of my favorite sneaker releases of the year. This shoe is absolutely incredible. The Military Blue 4s first released back in 1989 and are one of the OG Air Jordan 4 colorways, and for the 35th anniversary of the Air Jordan 4, Jordan Brand decided to give us a shoe that we haven't had since 2012. And you know what? That 12-year wait was absolutely worth it. This shoe is incredible. It looks very similar to the original. The cut is very similar to the OG. You've got a white leather upper, you've got gray nubuck, and you've got these beautiful military blue hits throughout the sneaker. Oh, and of course, you've got the Nike Air branding on the heel, which I think by now everyone's gotten used to once again, but it is nice to have it back. Also, I'm really happy with the release of this shoe. Jordan Brand gave us a bunch of these, like tons and tons of these, and that's great because it's one of those shoes that I feel like everyone could have a pair of. Plus, they dropped this shoe in the middle of the year, the perfect time to drop a sneaker that's great for summer. I feel like this was an awesome summer colorway. And as someone who has a lot of Jordans, too many Jordans, also too many Jordan 4s, as you've seen throughout this video, it's nice to have a pair of white and blue Jordans. I realize we have white and blue Jordans. They're not like the rarest thing in the world, but you don't get them as much as black and red Jordans. So to get a colorway like this, that you have colors that you don't usually see on Jordan sneakers, is nice to have to kind of throw in some variation into your Jordan rotation. And I love that about this shoe, and I've always loved that about this shoe. And this is actually the only true retro of an OG pair of Air Jordan 4s that dropped this year. Sure, we got the Breads, which is an OG colorway, but that shoe was reimagined. So it didn't come with the original materials, which means that it's not really a retro of the true OG. But it's all semantics. It doesn't really matter. I just love this shoe because of the way that it looks. I love this color blocking, and I love the fact that it's one of the original Air Jordan 4s. And I've worn it a bunch. I probably should clean it with some apothecary wipes actually, because it is dirty. But if you made it all the way through the video, let me know in the comment section down below what your favorite Air Jordan 4 was of 2024. Again, if you want to grab any of these sneakers, I've linked them all through the YouTube shopping tab on your screen. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't yet, and I'll see you all in the next one.